Hey, Austix here. I recently started browsing the OverwatchUniversity subreddit again, and to quickly fill you in, it's a community on Reddit where low-ranked players can hop in, kind of help each other out, try to climb. Now, before I get into this video, because I'm going to go pretty hard on some of these comments, I wanted to go over my qualifications first. I am the former head coach of XL2 Academy, Toronto Esports, and Uprising Academy. So I have a lot of experience working with players, and the topic today is aiming related, which is a very fundamental concept that isn't really very relevant at high level play. It's more of a low ranked thing, pastime, and usually it's not really a big issue anymore. But I wanted to kind of go into this post and go over some of the feedback that these random Redditors are giving to this user. Now, if you want to read the post, you can do that. I'm just going to give you a quick summary. So he's been playing the game since 2017. He has been bronze since 2017, and he plays the game for 1 to 2 hours, give or take, a day. Now, looking at this, for any experienced coach, that should already be a very obvious assessment. Obviously, aim is not their issue. If it were their issue, then they wouldn't be bronze after 3 years. And their playtime isn't really that great, but their playtime isn't really an issue either, because even with 1 to 2 hours a day, at least gold should be doable by, the average player. Now, before I go into the actual advice that I gave to the player, I want to go over some of the responses this user got on Reddit, because in my opinion, they are incredibly unhelpful, and they are also, quite frankly, damaging. They're essentially just red herrings that end up confusing the OP of the thread, and no one should listen to advice like this. It's horrible. So the first comment, or this is a part of a comment, reads, "How do you train? Are you actively looking for issues in your aiming and trying to figure out how to correct that? E.g., I'm mostly missing to the right, I should try to aim slightly left of the target, so my tendency to miss right from where I'm trying to hit will mean I'll hit them? Or just going through the motions of shooting at targets. There's a big difference between just playing and actually practicing." It's true. "This is why there are a lot of high-level players who are still bad. Game time does not magically give skill if you're not actively trying to improve." High-level players, they're by definition not bad, so I'm not sure what that statement is supposed to mean. Now, that said, I do want to comment on this. That's not how it works. You don't get good aim by analyzing how many degrees too far to the left you went and then telling yourself, okay, next match I need to flick 3.6 degrees to the right for 65% of my shots against Tracer when I'm at a 30% angle above them. That doesn't make any sense. It's nonsense. Okay? You can ask any professional level aimer how they got their aim. They practice. That's it. That's all there's to it. You grind deathmatch, you put in the hours, that's how you get good aim. And again, obviously this piece of feedback is completely useless to the person asking for advice. Now, later on in the comment, he does actually mention a clip could be useful, maybe with mouse cam if possible, because at this point I'm shooting blind since I have no way of knowing why your aim is bad or how your aim is bad, just that you think your aim is bad. That's true. The first question that someone should ask when they see this kind of post is, do you have a VOD? Can I look at your aim? Not because they can analyze, again, how they're aiming, but to figure out if aiming is an issue to begin with. That said, a mouse cam is honestly just a waste of time. It just takes long to set up and you don't really get anything out of it. If you're trying to figure out if the person making that Reddit post is aiming with their feet, you can ask them. I don't see why you would need him to record his hand as proof. Now, another comment, and this was very interesting as well, he said, "AimLab is free on Steam and seems to be a decent alternative to Kovacs, at least to begin with. It'll also give you some of the info for analyzing, such as you're missing mostly to the right, or you're having issues tracking to the left, and can create training scenarios which force those situations for you." And I'm also going to read the response of the OP. He replied, "Damn, thanks man. Check that out right now, you're my savior." Now, the reason why I put the response in there is because this is exactly why this kind of advice is very damaging and why it's a red herring. Because he's essentially telling him, hey, download this free software on Steam, grind it out all day, and all of your issues are going to be solved. But this isn't helpful to the player. As I mentioned earlier, and as I'm going to prove to you later, clearly aim isn't the problem with this player. There are other issues. right? And I can understand if someone wouldn't come to that conclusion right away just by reading through the post. But if you can't come to that conclusion just by reading through the post, then ask for information first. Try to figure out if aim is actually their problem, because you aren't checking whether aim is actually their problem. You're just assuming aim is their problem because they're telling you, right? And clearly, again, this isn't a diss at the OP. If he's been in bronze for 3 years, then clearly his ability to self-assess his weaknesses is very, very poor. So without actually figuring out if aim is his problem, you just tell him, oh, just go download the software, practice all day. It's going to fix all of your issues. And of course, the OP is going to take that. He's going to download the software, he's going to waste all his time practicing, and it's not going to get him anywhere. Another comment. I had this same problem. I don't know if this would help, but when I practice, everything was fine. But when I fight actual players, I noticed my eyes are fixed on them rather than both my crosshair and the enemy. So I increased the size of the crosshair so I don't lose it out of my sight when I fight. Okay, so this is again something where we need to talk about the actual ability to do something. If we take someone like Herman Lee, he prefers an electric guitar over an acoustic guitar. That doesn't mean that if I give him an acoustic guitar, he can't play it, right? Or if we take Beethoven or Bach, right? They like those grand pianos that are in concert halls. If I give them a synthesizer, they're not going to like it, but they can play on it. And it's the same with crosshairs, sensitivities, and mice. If you take some of the best aimers in the Overwatch League, Sure4, Carpe, whatever, and you increase their sense by a point or two, are they going to like it? No. Is it going to stop them from aiming? For 10 minutes maybe, but not for 3 years. Same thing with a crosshair, except with a crosshair they probably don't even need to adjust to it. It'll take them like 30 seconds and then their brain already phases it out. Mouse is a little bit different because based on the shape it might make them physically uncomfortable. But again, that is very, very rare, and even then it's nothing that they wouldn't be able to get used to, especially after 3 years. So if someone has been stuck in bronze because of their aim for 3 years, blaming their crosshair, their sensitivity, or their mouse is ridiculous. Next comment. Now, this one was making me a little mad because at least the Aim Labs advice from earlier was free, right? So the OP would waste hundreds of hours of his time in that software, but at least he wouldn't have to pay for it. Now this next piece of advice is a little bit more annoying, because worst case the OP is actually going to spend money on something that quite frankly he doesn't really need. The comment says, mousepad size DPI, most importantly, are you on a 60 Hz monitor? Maybe your peripherals are holding you back. So now we are blaming the 60 Hz monitor. And again, it's about the question, can you aim or can you not aim? It's a skill. Either you can do it or you can't. If someone is in bronze because of their aim, according to their own self-assessment, then clearly they can't aim. If you give them a 144 Hz monitor, guess what? They still can't aim. It doesn't help, right? Now, don't get me wrong, 144 Hz monitors are amazing. They feel great, very comfortable, and they can help with consistency and performance to a certain degree, of course, right? Is it going to fix his issues if he's been in bronze for 3 years? No, it won't. To add on to that last point, let's quickly look at a message that someone posted in my Discord. So this is Enchanto, and he asks, I'm a 4.2K Ana main playing with a 60 Hz monitor. Would I notice a big difference in my plays, mainly my mechanics, if I got a 144 Hz monitor? Would it be worth it to get one, and would I play better because of it? Enchanto, I'm not going to answer your question, I'm probably going to do that in another video, but I wanted to mention this here. This is a 4.2K player who's still using a 60 Hz monitor, and I don't know about you, but Ana isn't a very no-aim hero. I would say she's quite mechanically demanding, actually. So if he can make it to 4.2K with 60 Hz, then I'm sure that the OP can make it out of bronze on a 60 Hz monitor too, and not having a 144 Hz monitor is not holding him back. Now, another reason why this comment was very annoying and very misleading is because that is kind of the default answer for a lot of people. There's actually another comment, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. A 60 Hz monitor is a huge disability to your aim and making any visual decisions. More and more players these days have a high refresh rate monitor with the frames to match. It'll improve your gameplay and aim immensely. Don't listen to anyone who says it won't. It's up to you whether you want to listen to me or if you want to listen to wandering trees. But I respectfully disagree. Your gameplay and your aim won't improve immensely if you upgrade from 60 Hz to 144 Hz. And this isn't a maybe, this isn't an if, this is a definitive no. It's gonna feel nice, yes. It's maybe gonna help a little with your aim, yes. Situational awareness, maybe a little as well. Is it gonna make you smarter, help better at making smarter decisions or positioning better? No. And is it going to help you immensely? Definitely not. Next, we have more advice for the OP. So after reading some of your comments here, I'd say you have to start to learn how to aim with your arm instead of your wrist. Ignoring the fact that it's really bad for your wrist. To be fair, wrist aiming is fairly unhealthy, yeah, that's true. Arm aim is better for getting muscle memory. It's not true. I'm not sure where that statement is coming from, or how you even got that idea, quite frankly. That's complete nonsense. Your sense also seems too low to effectively wrist aim and is on the high side for arm aiming. Still fine though. Again, looking at sensitivity, he does say that it's still fine, but if it's fine, why even mention it? Just adding useless information that he's not going to be able to use. You're just going to end up confusing him, right? You haven't showed any gameplay, but try paying attention to your crosshair placement, constantly having your crosshair aimed at head height, no need for fancy aiming skills if their heads just walk into your crosshair. Again, this is ridiculous. Is good crosshair placement, important and helpful? Yes. Does it completely negate the necessity for, having an actual ability to aim? No. You still need to aim. Even if you pre-aim at head height, it just makes it a little bit easier. Another great comment. I see no one mentioned your hand positioning in real life. Yesterday I noticed that when I sit higher up relative to my desk and when more of my wrist is on the desk rather than my forearm when I sit lower, my aim got way more consistent instantly. So try sitting on a pillow or something that boosts your height. Now again, I'm not saying that this person is lying. Can be true, right? If you found a position that's a little bit more comfortable, that can help with consistency, right? But if the OP isn't good at aiming, again, he's in bronze, been for 3 years apparently because of his aim, it's not really about comfort anymore, it's just about raw skill, right? So sure, maybe he feels more comfortable. That said, giving this as advice again is not really very helpful, because all you're going to do is you're going to have the OP sitting in his room trying to mess around with his chair height, trying to push his mousepad forward and backwards, and it's not going to do anything, because again, maybe he's going to be more comfortable, maybe he's going to be less comfortable, but that doesn't actually fix the issue of him being unable to aim. Again, if he's unable to aim. Now, before I get into how I handle this situation personally and how you can handle situations like this in the future, I do want to give a quick disclaimer that some of the comments in that post were genuinely pretty helpful. Right? Maybe not the best, but they were kind of pointing it the right direction. They were asking questions, asking for VODs, just, telling him that maybe he's not practicing enough, maybe aim isn't the issue. Very nice, right? But that was the small minority, and if you're someone that goes onto Reddit and asks a question, you will not be able to tell the trash advice from the actual useful advice. So I sent a message to the person making the post, and I'm going to read that out real quick. I can help you out if you answer some questions. I need a VOD of you playing. Any VOD against real players is fine. Ideally comp, doesn't have to be special. Again, I need to figure out if aim is actually his issue, so I need some gameplay. Age is important because at 40, 50 years, you are going to run into issues, but as we'll find out later, age is not really an issue for him. Warm-up routine, how frequently do you take off days? Any severe physical disabilities, so missing fingers or muscle atrophy or something, again, kind of a long shot, but you just have to know, maybe for some reason the poster didn't mention it. Hero pool, as in what characters do you play, important that you list all of them to see if they're kind of spread too thin. Any accounts you play on besides your main. And then lastly, give me a ratio of how you spend your time between warming up, quick play, and competitive. these were the questions that I wanted to ask him. Now, it's important to just put in some context. The reason I asked these questions is because the information in the post just wasn't sufficient to come to a conclusion. Now, the OP, so the person making the post, he responded in two waves. He first answered the questions, and then later on, he gave me a VOD. And obviously, without the VOD, you cannot completely conclude what the issues actually are with 100% confidence. So, he responds to the questions. He says he's 19, which isn't really an issue. His warm-up routine is pretty bad, and he just gives some information. If you want to read through his response exactly, you can do it right there. Now, I gave him, based on the answers that I gave him some actual advice that is going to be relevant to him and that is going to help him make his aim more consistent. But again, keep in mind that this advice is not something that he should implement right now. This is something that he has to implement once he gets to a higher level where aim actually becomes an issue. So the advice includes kind of making his hero pool a little bit more compact, because right now it's just mixing a bunch of aiming styles, getting a proper warm-up routine, focusing on competitive, etc., etc. It's just default advice. Again, you can read through it right up there. Now, let me show you his gameplay. I'm just going to let it run in the background. So once I saw his gameplay, I realized that, or I could not realize, but I could confidently say that aim wasn't an issue. And if you look at the VOD, you can very clearly tell that he doesn't have bronze level aim. And this is a very clear-cut case of someone not understanding how the game works fundamentally and blaming his aim because that's kind of the easiest thing to blame. The actual issues for the player was a lack of confidence and a lack of proactiveness, which are game sense-based issues that can be fixed very, very easily once you start addressing them and once you start accepting that those are the actual issues. But aim wasn't really an issue. Once it does become an issue, I give him some advice on how to actually fix that. Again, you can read through those responses. But looking back on the feedback that he got in the thread, I'm honestly just disgusted. I think it's not a good idea to go into those posts, to try to help people out if you have no idea what you're talking about. It's better to just ask questions, right? See if their aim is actually bad, that's fine. But trying to just throw out advice like spend money on this, spend money on that, just do this, just waste your time on that, is not really helpful. All right, so I hope that this post could kind of be a little bit, help you be a bit more cautious in the future. And the question, of course, is if Reddit isn't a very, safe resource for advice, where can I go, right? And for this, you can, for one, obviously hop onto my Discord. You can either send me a private message or you can post into my Ask Stux channel, where I could have answered a question like this within half an hour and you wouldn't have to worry about the advice actually being good or not. But then again, there are a lot of different communities with people that can help you, even some tier 3 or tier 4 coaches. If you just find them and you message them, usually they're going to take the time out of their day to help you, right? And if they can't help you, it is always in your best interest to maybe say, okay, maybe my current approach just doesn't work. Maybe what I think the issues are aren't the issues, and then trying to figure out what other issues you might have by kind of learning from your own VODs and comparing them to higher level VODs. But trying to go to random internet strangers for advice is just going to waste more and more of your time. My name is Stux, and I'd like to thank you for learning.